Hey, what's up, everybody? We are back, and we've got another big week of basketball. So let's not waste any time and run it back. I'm Suli McCullough with my co-host Dan Ratner. It's time, y'all. Basketball time. Yeah.
I love it. And you know, one thing I love about this show is you're going to be this excited every week. It might even be more.
Yes, I am.
That's like the baseline.
Yes.
All right, let's jump in we're going to jump right into the jersey that you're wearing, and then we'll talk a little bit about my shirt if I'm wearing something interesting, which I am today.
Yes, yeah, you are. I like your shirt. Well, first of all, the jersey that I decided to go with is a nod to our guest this week, Alonzo Bodden, who is a giant Clippers fan. So what I wanted to do was just pay homage. I'm a Clippers fan too. This is the Chris Paul jersey from back in the day with the sleeves. The sleeves, when the NBA was experimenting with sleeves. A lot of people don't like these jerseys because of the sleeves. I happen to like it because what it does is it accentuates my guns.
See, it's funny, Sully, because I like the sleeves because it hides mine.
So see, different
it works for
strokes.
both. But
Different
let me
strokes.
tell you one quick story about sleeves.
Okay.
When the Cavs came out in 2016 in those
Yes.
black sleeve jerseys,
Yes,
I was like,
with the C, I love those jerseys.
I do too now. But when they first came out, I was like, oh my God, we showed up for the finals, Game 7 in our pajamas. I was like, I can't believe it. We're never gonna win with this.
Well, what's funny too is like, when you see an NBA player in the jersey with the sleeves, they're yoked out, they fill them out properly. Mine's a little baggy.
Right.
You
All right.
know
Well,
what I
this is just a plain T-shirt, but
Okay, that's a nice little classic Bulls T-shirt.
It's a Michael Jordan. It's a Michael Jordan.
Okay, well we got to see the number.
You can see the number. There you go.
I might have thought you were wearing Laurie Marketing for some
Right.
reason.
This could have been. I mean, it could have been anybody. I mean,
Sure.
It's I'm trying to think of like Scott Williams. It could have been that.
That would be a great T-shirt.
But that would be kind of impressive, actually.
Yeah, that would. If you had a Scott Williams T-shirt, I'd be like, yo, this dude is for real.
Well, I'm looking forward to talking to Alonzo about his Clippers. I have questions for you guys about what it means to be a Clippers fan and how that even comes to be. We'll get to that. But we're going to jump right into NBA prime cuts.
Yes. Let's not waste any time. We got some beautiful prime cuts this week. Let's just start off with the biggest story of the week, which is probably pretty obvious. But go ahead and break it down.
I think no one would argue that the biggest story of this week is KD's return.
Yes.
Now, he's been out. How long has he been out?
He's been out for a good little while now. He's missed, 20-plus games?
Yeah, and when you combine it with last year, I feel like KD, remember him from a long time ago? Like it's like he's back. He's back.
Remember one of the top 5 players in the NBA? Well, he's back.
I mean, he's been away for a long time, but
yes,
he came back against Zion and the Pelicans.
Yes,
it was a blowout.
Big game. It seemed like it might be impressive, but you're right. It was a blowout.
It was a blowout. Zion finished with a lackluster 16 points, 6 assists, 4 rebounds. I love to be a guy that's so talented that's lackluster.
Yeah, exactly. It's still a pretty decent game for a guy that is your 4th or 5th best player. But for Zion, we expect a little more.
Now, Durant came off the bench. He only played 19 minutes.
Yes.
And he outscored Zion.
He outscored Zion coming off the bench
in 19 minutes. Yeah.
That's fantastic. He was pretty impressive. He went 5 for 5, made all his free throws, and then made 2 threes also.
I don't think he missed a shot even in warm-ups.
No. And it seemed like he was easy money sniper, but a well-rested version. That was like, oh, yeah, this is what I do.
And look, let's just say this. After last week, this is the KD we wanted to see.
Yes.
For the people who are watching and didn't catch last week, which is not many because most people caught this show, I'm sure.
Right. Of course, everyone watches Run It Back.
Everybody. So Sully, catch everybody up on what happened last week with KD.
Well, here's the thing. KD was not our favorite player last week because he got into that Twitter beef with Mike Rappaport, who's a friend of ours, a comedian, one of our brethren. And everyone was down on KD. He said some pretty ugly things in his DMs. Mike released the DMs. It was a very negative story. It cost KD $50,000, which he had to come out of pocket. That's a pretty big check. even if you are KD. So KD was a bad guy last week. He comes back this week. His mom is in the audience. All of a sudden, he's good guy KD again. It was like a Frank Capra movie. And I might be dating myself, but all of a sudden it was like, let's just forget bad KD. Good KD is back. This is the guy we want to see. And he performed. Like, if he didn't perform, I might have had more of a problem with the quick transformation, but the fact that he played so tremendously, that's the KD we want to see. So it is good that revisionist history, if you ball out, just erases all your bad
It's
stuff.
just gone immediately.
Yeah, it's gone. It's gone.
In 6 days. So
yeah, look, he loves his mom. He's hugging his mom.
Oh, what a great guy. All right, but listen, I also wanted to say, you can't, don't ever say you're dating yourself with somebody like Frank Capra. He's like an NBA legend, a film legend.
Yes, he's cinematic.
You're never dating
legend.
yourself.
Yes,
with that.
yes, but still, we do have young viewers on this show, and they're gonna be like, was it who? Frank who? Frank?
I know,
Frank
I know,
Nitty?
but
Frank.
But listen, we keep it real on this show. What we
Yes,
need to
we
say
do.
to those young viewers is, listen, I know you don't know this guy, but you got to check it out.
Right.
You can't.
Kids, Google Frank Capra, and then you'll be like, yo.
You're going to be in a conversation at a party, and you're going to need to. Somebody's going to say, some pretty girl's going to say something about Frank Capra. You better know.
Yeah,
All right.
You got to know. Just
Let's
trying to hook you up.
Let's get back to the Nets. We went on a surprise Frank
tangent.
Capra
It was unexpected.
detour. All right.
It was unexpected.
So the James Harden sidelined once again with right hamstring tightness. So the Nets' big three have not played together since February 13th.
That's a long time.
It's a long time.
That's over a month. They've started just 7 games together all season, and with less than 20 games left on the schedule. I wonder if that lack of team chemistry is going to make a big difference at all. Like, is that team just so ridiculously talented that they're going to be able to figure it out in the playoffs, or might that be an Achilles heel that catches up with them?
All right, I'm going to make this might feel like a hot take to you, but I think the NBA playoffs are so long that they will be able to find their way. Like, it's like its own season.
Yeah, you're right about that. They have definitely stretched out the games, and with the play-in tournament, that means they're going to be even more extended. I used to like the old school where that first round was 5 games, because there was more of an element of anything could happen.
Yeah,
you really had to be on top of your game, or you might get upset. I do agree with you, and I didn't even think about that with the way the NBA prolongs the playoff run, they should be able to figure it out. But it is a little weird that the three of them have not really played together, and they've amassed this record where they're up top the East.
Yeah, I think it's a legitimate concern. I just think that your point about the first round is key. When it was a 5-game series, sometimes the teams didn't figure it out. By the end of a 7-game series, it's like the team has played together all year. It's like
yes.
That's a long series. That's a 2-week series.
Yes. And you get a lot of time to scheme against the other team and decide your defenses and learn what sets work. So, yeah, they're probably going to be fine, much to my chagrin.
Yes, I totally agree. I don't want them to be fine. I really don't.
Yeah, I want them to struggle a little bit. I feel like this has all come together a little bit too easy for them. The disgruntled stars that have found their way onto that team are walking around just a little bit too confident. So hopefully they have a little bit of adversity to make this interesting.
I'm with you on that. Now let's talk about some teams, the 2 best teams in the NBA, who they don't have the kind of setup that the Nets do, where it just kind of fell in their laps.
Right.
The Utah Jazz.
Right.
They're getting it done like crazy.
Yes.
We're always giving them credit here, and we're going to continue to do that because
that is one thing that Run It Back does really well is we give the Utah Jazz their props.
Yeah, we actually do lots of things well, Suli.
That's true. I was just saying one of them. I didn't want to be.
I just didn't want you to undersell your own show.
Yeah.
Okay, so the Phoenix Suns, these are the
number
top
2 team in the West. Number 2 team in the West.
They squared off, and it lived up to the hype.
Yes, that was actually one of my favorite games this week. The Suns ended up winning in overtime, 117-113. The young stars were doing what you want the young stars to do. Everyone has always talked about Devin Booker being a future superstar in this league, and he definitely played like it in that game. He had 35 points, 4 rebounds. which was incredible. Donovan Mitchell, who took a lot of criticism earlier in the year, had 41 points, 8 rebounds, so he was balling out of control. Chris Paul, who is an asset to any team, hence the jersey, was on the sideline drinking some Space Jam super juice, like it was labeled Chris Paul's super stuff, and it helped him play like the point guard that he is. He had 29 points, 9 assists, including 2 key free throws to put the game on ice at the end of overtime.
This is just one of those games where I think the teams and the players are going to rise to the occasion because they're so excited to play each other. This is when they're getting tested,
Yes.
It's like you don't know until you get there.
Right. Yeah, that game was that game definitely had playoff intensity. I like both of those teams. I think both of those teams are a problem. If you're one of those lower seeded teams that are struggling to figure it out right now, and there's 3 or 4 really good teams in the West that are going to have to face either of these two teams, that is going to be a rough first round matchup.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Now, you brought a quote to me from Roddy Ricch.
That's right.
That's a funny backstory.
Yeah, what this is my summary of the Phoenix Suns, because I like what they're doing. I like their players. I think they're going to be a real problem in the playoffs. To quote Roddy Ricch, the Phoenix Suns are hot girl like Arizona.
Now,
yeah,
Suli,
let that breathe.
I think, hold on. I'm just going to let that out there. Okay, but now we need to bring in another part of the story, which is my response to it was possibly the whitest response ever.
Yeah.
I was like, Roddy Ricch, is he the coach of the Suns? and then I asked
you were confused that Roddy Ricch spells rich Ricch instead of just rich.
I was like,
but that's what rappers do. Rappers mix it up. They'll add an extra syllable, an extra vowel. They got to keep it moving.
That was a super white response on my part.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It literally made me laugh. It literally made me laugh.
Now, one last thing on the Jazz before we move on. They set an NBA record in the next game. I believe it was the next game.
Well, it was actually a previous game.
Oh, it was a previous game.
Even before these guys matched up. They set an NBA record of 18 three-pointers in a half against the Orlando Magic.
In a half?
In a half. So them dudes are letting it fly.
That's 54 points in a half just from 3.
Yes.
How many did they score? 56?
I don't know exactly.
Who knows? We'll have to look into that.
Yeah, but that team is a real problem because they can beat you outside, inside. Rudy Gobert does his thing, as it were. The other night, he had 21 rebounds. Just last night, 21 rebounds. So that dude is a presence. One of the things that I did like about that matchup of those two teams was they both had back-to-backs. Utah played the Portland Trailblazers, which is no slouch of a team. That's a team they could see in the first round, and they handled them 122 to 103. And the Phoenix Suns had to play my Los Angeles Clippers, and they lost to the Clippers 113-103. So as you can see, those are two tough back-to-backs, and both those teams were competitive, and I think in those first 3-4 spots in the West and in the East, there's going to be a lot of jockeying before this is all said and done. So that was a key game that lived up to the hype and maybe a preview of what we're going to see down the road.
And this is the fun of it all. We're actually going to get to see.
It's about to ramp up even more so. It's about to ramp up even more so.
So now we're going to jump to the East.
Yes.
And the Milwaukee Bucks minus the Greek Freak. He had knee soreness.
Who's dealing with knee soreness. Yes.
He's been out the last 3 games.
Yes, that's right.
They dropped a game to the Warriors and Steph Curry, 122 to 121 in the old, I feel like this is like the old Denver Nuggets of the late 80s. It's like huge scores.
Yes, a lot of scoring. Very little defense.
Golden State is currently 10th in the West, and this was a big win.
Yeah, exactly. They had a 3 or 4 game slide. They were thoroughly unwatchable without Steph Curry. Draymond, for all his bravado, does not keep the TV on. I'm sorry. He does not keep the TV on. That team has some talented players. They are really missing Klay Thompson. But what I love about that game is every time Steph puts on like one of those extra spicy Curry games, it's really fun basketball to watch. I gotta say, he might be my favorite superstar that I've enjoyed this season. And in that game, he was Steph-tacular. I just made up a new word. He was Steph-tacular.
Steph-tacular.
He racked up 41 points, went 5 from 10 from 3, and he also set an NBA record for his 200 3-point season, giving him an NBA record 8 seasons with at least 200 threes. That is phenomenal. Okay,
you know what it is? It's incurriedible. Oh my God, there's some groan going on there.
Did you just say incurry edible?
This is exactly what I said.
Wow.
Curry is edible.
Wow.
Oh my God, I think I just got even whiter.
Wow.
I
thought the Roddy Ricch thing was a little uncomfortable, but that one really took it to a new place.
No, I like to cross the boundary when I can. So let's talk about the Bucks with their big three.
Yes.
Like, does it qualify as a big three?
Yes. Well, they paid Drew Holiday a ton of money this week. He agreed to a 4-year contract extension worth at least $134 million. And that's if he exercises his option in his final season. He was clearly excited about it because he tweeted, "I'm a Buck for life." Wow.
And he got a lot of money for it. A lot of bucks.
Yes, he did. A lot of bucks for playing with the Bucks.
So I love that we're going to get to test this out. Now, listen, we got to move into kind of a bit of a speed round because we got Alonzo Bodden's coming in soon.
Yes.
I just want to note the NCAA championship happened. We probably should mention that.
Absolutely. I love the fact that the March Madness was back after a year off. This pandemic year has been bad for everyone, especially those college players that didn't get a chance to shine. I love the tournament. I got all into it this year. I think the game of the tournament was clearly the Final Four matchup between undefeated Gonzaga, and my UCLA Bruins. It went to overtime. We had a chance to go to the championship game and win our 12th championship, but true freshman Jalen Suggs hit a bank 3-pointer that broke our hearts, and they won the game. They won the game 93-90 on a game glass 3 buzzer beater that he walked into with defense and knocked down, and then jumped on top of something and celebrated like the true champions that they were.
And listen, if Gonzaga had gone on to win the championship, that would have become a much more famous shot than it now will be. It's a really weird thing.
That game was an all-time classic. Like, we're going to see highlights from that game forever. That was an amazing shot. Me and my friends were all on a Zoom at the time, and we literally were planning to storm Westwood with our old asses and go down there and just be part of the melee. We would have lit a garbage can or two on fire had UCLA won. So it's probably best for my kids that we didn't win.
It was best for those garbage cans. I'll tell you
and
that.
Those garbage cans for sure. But we were ready to go get it. The tournament was great. And in the final game, the championship game, Gonzaga took their undefeated season against the Baylor Bears, and Baylor just dismantled them. It really was not even a contest. Like, those guys really took it to them, and there you have it. The Baylor Bears are the national champions.
Hats off to the Baylor Bears. Now, here's what I'm going to say. We have more. There's more prime cuts, but I think we're going to bring this in with Alonzo. Alonzo's going to come in with prime cuts.
It's Alonzo time. And we're really excited because this is our first guest on Run It Back, and there's no better way to kick it off than with a good friend of mine, comedian, longtime Clipper fan, hilarious dude who is not afraid to pull punches. So Alonzo's a big dude, and he talks a big game. So here he is, ladies and gentlemen, my man, Alonzo Bodden.
What's up, guys? Thank you. Thank
What
you.
is going down, Alonzo? It is great to see you. You're here. You've got a shirt on as well. Is
Yeah,
there any
mine is just the
significance?
Nike athletic department. I'm just kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah,
neutral.
you're already a big dude, but you need to just make sure you communicate to the world that you're athletic as well.
Listen, there are so many. I wanted to jump in a million times just listening to you guys, starting with the jersey, Suli, which I love those jerseys, and I have a DeAndre one, but you were talking about the sleeves and showing the guns. Chris Paul doesn't have any guns. If there's one guy who could wear that jersey just like you, it is CP3. I love CP3, and I'll tell you, people question him. I know he could be an asshole and people don't like him, but here's the mark of greatness of CP3.
Yes.
Last season, Oklahoma to the playoffs.
Yes.
This season, Phoenix, a major contender.
Yes.
Why? Because CP3 is running the show, and
Yes.
he's teaching youngsters how to ball.
Yes.
CP3 makes a team better. And when he was with the Clippers, if Blake Griffin didn't cry and whine every time Chris Paul yelled at him, they might have been a better team. Blake Griffin couldn't handle. CP3 is not nice. You know what I mean? He pushes you. He pushes himself, but he pushes you. And Blake couldn't handle that. So I love CP3. I would have loved to see him come back. I mean, the Clips got Rondo, but if there was a way for CP3 to come back and run the floor anywhere he goes.
Absolutely.
He makes teams better. You're absolutely correct.
They couldn't make it work with him and Harden, right? Because Harden's also a strong personality.
Right.
But if you watch CP3, he makes teams better.
That is absolutely correct.
Guys, I'm going to say something really controversial here. I think there's more of Blake Griffin and James Harden than like Michael Jordan and James Harden. I think he doesn't take the direction enough or give the direction enough.
Who, Blake?
No, Harden. He couldn't work with Chris Paul. Chris Paul wins everywhere he goes.
Yeah.
But Harden's ego, and it was already Harden's team. It was established. This is James Harden's team. Whereas with the Clippers, with the big three, it wasn't Blake's team. It was the three of them. Right. I mean, you could say Blake was the Flash, and Lob City, he looked great. But Suli will tell you, because Suli's a Clipper fan, he's been there. You put the pressure on, and Blake disappears. If there was tough, he had one season where he had that great playoff series against San Antonio, but that was it. Blake cannot play under pressure. You look at his stats, the first 3 quarters, he's a monster. In the fourth quarter, it was like, you better get the ball to Jamal. You better get the ball to somebody, because Blake don't want the ball. He wasn't the guy. The mark of a superstar, right, especially in the NBA, is give me the ball.
Yep. I agree wholeheartely. You have to have that gene.
And what did Jordan say? I don't care if I miss the shot or make the shot. I'm taking the shot.
Yep.
Right? It wasn't about, Pippen's open. You never.
Right.
Michael was never like, hey, Scotty's open, man. I don't want to hurt my stats.
Yeah. Horace, it's your time to shine.
Right.
But here's what I meant.
Kobe, in his entire career, I think Kobe only threw 3 passes in the fourth quarter. I think.
Right.
It might have only been 2. I'm not sure.
Right.
Mental errors. Anytime it was a mental error, he's like, wait a minute, what did I just do? Give me that.
See, Harden is definitely a true superstar, but you were saying, Alonzo, that Harden is a strong personality, and I was just making the argument that in a way, he's got a weakness to him. And like Jordan could do it both ways. He could ride somebody hard, but he also could figure out how to drive them and get in there. And if somebody was pushing him, he would rise to the occasion. CP3 is a little more like Jordan, I think, than Harden is in his mindset. I know, not as a player.
Yeah. No, CP3, that's my point. CP3 is a strong personality, but in Houston, it was Harden's team. Like, you weren't going to change Harden. Now, Harden has changed going to the Nets, right? Now he's like, okay, I can score a little less and run the floor, which we didn't even know he could do.
Sure.
But he's
Sure.
been doing that. He's been running the floor. And then jumping in again on what you guys were saying about the Nets and the playoffs, they'll be fine because all of them have made playoff runs and they know how to do it. So when the time comes, the only question mark is Kyrie, right? Because Kyrie's a head case and you just never know what he might just decide to go on a tangent, right? And then you got a problem and you don't know how to handle it. Like there's nobody. Remember when Rodman was playing and they kept what was his name? They kept the player just because he could talk to Rodman. Who was it?
They kept somebody on the Bulls squad just because he was friends with Rodman.
It was in San Antonio and
wow, that's
I can't remember
beyond my basketball.
Friends with Rodman, so they were like, okay, keep him here.
Yeah.
So when Dennis goes to be Dennis, we got someone to talk to him.
Yeah.
Kyrie, they don't have that. So Kyrie's kind of he can be a wild card. But
here's what I think about Kyrie though. I think putting him as the primary scorer defines his role, and I think he understands that. So it's he'll be able to stay in that lane. He's like, you just need me to score in the most fantastic way possible. Right. I think that's an easily defined box for him.
You don't have to worry about KD. KD's going to get his.
Yep.
Aldridge is a much better pickup than Blake Griffin. Blake is kind of coast into a championship. You know what I mean? He's going to be like he was there, but he didn't really matter. Especially,
so are you saying he's like going to be like the Adam Morrison of the Laker era?
Like once they got Aldridge, he's Blake's I have issues with him, as you
well know. Clearly.
Dan might not realize this, but beyond that, Blake is a dunker who can't dunk. I mean, once his knees went, his game was gone.
We saw him dunk recently. He looked surprised. he did. He was like, "Did I just do that?" Okay, guys, I'm gonna do you a favor because you guys are Clippers fans, and I want to go to our dunk of the week.
Okay.
Our dunk of the week.
This is a surprise dunk of the week.
Yeah, we're gonna bring in the surprise dunk of the week because Alonzo needs to see this. He probably did, but he got to see it again.
Yeah.
Alonzo, did you see that live?
Yes.
I mean, I love that he's being knocked backwards, and he just won't be denied.
Yeah.
Well, one huge advantage Kawhi has, right, are the claws. I mean, the fact that he can hold a basketball like it's a tennis ball allows for a lot of motion. And, Kawhi, he quietly dominates.
Yes.
You never realize how dominant a player he is. I think he's one of those guys that everyone in the league knows how dominant he is, but you don't really realize it because he doesn't do that all the time. He doesn't go down dunking on people at will, but he could. Sure. He's like, I could dunk on anybody whenever I want, but I don't have to, incredible player. My question with the Clip, I think Boogie's a great pickup. I think Boogie's going to help. I think Boogie's got a chip on his shoulder.
Yep.
A feeling of a lack of respect, which I think is going to make him play harder, which is great. And my question is Paul George. Is PG going to show up? I mean, another example of what you do in the playoffs. The NBA is like, what did you do in the playoffs?
When it matters most. Actually, Paul George has that thing kind of like Harden when he was at Houston, where in the regular season, there was no better player. Like, this dude was putting up good numbers. He was carrying his team. It was in dramatic fashion. And then once the playoffs came around, it's like, he's not quite delivering. So I think everyone is looking at Paul George and they're saying, okay, you're doing it right now, but you might want to save it for 5 weeks because that's when we need it the most.
All right, now I'm going to move us into our next segment. It's called Say What, but I'm not going to say it because Suli is the master at saying this. Bring us in.
Our next segment, of course, is my personal favorite. Say what?
I love it. Now, I have my own Say What coming, but I'm going to save it for later in Who's Hot. So, Guys, I'm gonna read to you. Of course, Say What often involves Draymond Green. It's like 3/4 of the time it's Draymond Green. But we got him again. He said he was tired of seeing female athletes complaining about the lack of play. He said, I'm really tired of seeing them complain about the lack of pay because they're doing themselves a disservice by just complaining. They're not laying out steps that they can take to change that. Now, U.S. soccer star Megan Rapinoe fired back. She said, it's really unfortunate that in the position he's in, having all the resources that he has and the ability to have a much more educated opinion, that he just hasn't. Really frustrating. Obviously, he just kind of showed his whole ass in not understanding what we talk about the whole time. Guys, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I think Megan Rapinoe hit it right on the head. It's like, the bubble last season was really about giving players a voice and standing up for the things that you believe in. Supporting the Black Lives Matter movement, which really, if you were really aware of what was going on, the WNBA was at the forefront of all that. So I felt like the NBA sort of picked up on what the WNBA started, and it's just not a smart play to not align yourself with trying to make the women's game and women being fairly compensated for what they do as part of your platform. It is the equivalent of saying all lives matter when somebody says Black Lives Matter. I think Draymond needs to be a little bit smarter than this, and maybe all those Subway commercials are starting to go to his head.
Well, Draymond is not in a position to say anything. Now, Suli, this is a comic, right? When there's a dominant group and a, let's put it, a less dominant group, the dominant cannot make fun of the less dominant. In other words, like I'm much bigger than Suli, right? So for Suli to make fun and jokes about me being big is one thing. But for me to pick on Suli for being physically small, now I'm an asshole, right?
True.
So,
he snuck it in there, though. He snuck in the joke.
It doesn't stop me from doing it, but it would.
Right. Yeah, of course. Like I was like, you're going to do it, but.
So Draymond is in the NBA. He's getting paid, like you just said, Suli. Drew Holiday got what,
$134 million.
$4 million, right?
Yes.
Female athletes will not get paid the same as men because they don't draw the same crowd. You don't create the same revenue. Unfortunately, the WNBA doesn't sell out the arena every night. The WNBA doesn't have the TV contract that the NBA has, so there isn't as much money to give. Proportionately, I don't know what the math is, but because Draymond is in the NBA and getting paid a ton of money, you don't sit back and tell someone else not to ask for their money.
Right.
You shut up.
Right.
If you have the opinion that you don't think the WNBA players should complain or shut up. Keep
Absolutely.
it to yourself.
Absolutely. Or I would offer do something positive to help the cause, just like Kyrie Irving did, where he paid supplemented the salaries of the players that chose not to play in the WNBA's bubble.
Right.
That's using your resources to do something good.
Well, he's doing one other thing
to help him.
He's doing one other thing too. He's denying what's really happening because he's saying, "Oh, you guys aren't doing anything about it." They are doing things about it, and in fact, they are up against it, and so he's denying their actual struggle. That's
they're doing. Listen, they're doing what they can, and they're calling attention to it. And like you said, Suli, the WNBA, the players are not afraid to speak out. Which you got to respect that.
Absolutely.
And, it's good basketball. Now, it's not. It's never going to be NBA basketball, and that's no knock against them. It's just. The NBA, they're super athletes.
Yeah, these athletes are ridiculous. The things that they can do. Like, there was a time in my early 20s where I was like, I could play in the NBA. I look at these dudes now, and I'm like, there is no way. There's just no way. Like, these dudes are too skilled. They're too athletic. They don't get tired. Euro steps alone. If you just watch Euro steps, you're like, oh, okay, they're on another level.
Yeah, I've been back in the day. I got to play with some NBA players, and you always have that dream, like you're talking about, Suli.
Yes.
And like they ruin the dream in 2 minutes. In
Oh,
2 minutes, you realize, like, yeah, this is a different game. What's the saying? I am not familiar with this game you're playing.
Yes.
Everything they do better. And that was then. That was back in the 80s. I mean, now, you look at Russell Westbrook. Who could be that athletic?
Yes, and that ferocious.
That athletic. It is unreal. Or like we were talking about Kawhi. How athletic is Kawhi? Or how many?
And he rarely talks.
How many football coaches look at the fours, look at power forwards in the NBA, drooling like,
yes,
oh God,
yes,
could he please just? I could teach him to catch a football, and I don't have to coach anymore.
Yes, exactly, exactly. I want to pick up the next say what?
Yeah, I was going to say.
And this involves NBA legend Charles Barkley. If it's not Draymond, it's Barkley, who said that politicians are dividing Americans along racial lines for personal gain. And here's what Charles Barkley said. He said, man, I think most white people and black people are great people. I really believe that in my heart. But I think our system is set up to where our politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, are designed to make us not like each other so they can keep their grasp of money and power. They divide and conquer.
Wow, Suli, bringing it. I'm glad you did that.
Suli just did it was a Charles Barkley with a little bit of Martin Luther King on the end.
Just a dash, because I'm being political.
I have an NBA dream. So what do we think about? Well, what do we think about this? I mean, I have a particular take on it, but Charles is always outspoken.
Yes.
And he said what was on his mind. What do you guys think about this?
I don't even think this is outspoken. This isn't news. This is true. My problem with the statement is the false equivalency. Okay? The Republicans use race as a wedge. The Republicans make race an issue. You look at whether you look at, like Suli was talking about earlier, Black Lives Matter, or telling Kaepernick to shut up, immigration, who's anti-immigrant, I call it anti-other. Any other, whether it be black, immigrant, Muslim, gay, whatever, even women. That's their politics. I'm not saying the Democrats are perfect, but I'm saying it is a false equivalency. You're comparing a group that 75% endorses racism to a group that has, and I'm being crazy, it's not even 75-25, it's 90-10.
Sure.
So Barkley is always conscious of the Republican thing. I think that his money has something to do with it, and being from Alabama and having a lot of friends who are good old boys and stuff like that. But the truth is, yes, there is a political divide along race, but it's not an equal, it's not that you can't say Republicans and Democrats are the same on this.
I totally agree. You can't make it an equivalency at all. But the other thing is he's missing, I think, the primary diagnosis. This is coming from a therapist. He is missing the fact that it's really all about the money. Everything, the money is driving everything. Money is now driving media. So the media just says the hot take. That's what they want to see. And as a result, it's a huge problem. And meanwhile, it's the Republicans who are pushing to keep that money system in place much more than the Democrats. So that's an important observation, if I do say so myself.
I think those are. I think you guys have basically covered it.
All right, we nailed
it. And finally, I just want to say I'm from Leeds.
Yeah. Listen, your imitation of Charles Barkley, it's not terrible, but mine is. All right. I just wanted to say terrible because everybody
I liked it.
Says that.
I liked it.
Okay, we're going to move into something, Alonzo, that we call Who's Hot or Not this week. It's a very rapid fire look, usually, because by this time, Suli and I have like not even gotten in all the things we wanted to say.
Yes.
So, we're going to talk about it. You jump in as needed. But Russell Westbrook, we talked about a lot last week. He notched his 20th triple-double of the year. I wouldn't be surprised if it was his 20th triple-double of the month.
Right.
He's just always doing this. And so he's got 166 career triple-doubles, second only to the Big O, Oscar Robertson, 181. Alonzo, what do you think about this?
It's fantastic, and he's a super athlete to watch. Unfortunately, it's inconsequential. It's not like he's taking triple doubles and winning games. When it comes to the triple double, I will stand behind Magic Johnson as the man, because Magic's triple doubles in Showtime era won the game because he figured out what they needed him to do that night.
Yeah, his triple doubles were to win. Westbrook's triple doubles, I don't really know. It's like you're playing NBA Jam.
Absolutely. I'll just offer this. Westbrook is my son's favorite player, so anytime he does good, that's a good thing. But I am afraid that my son's going to get into a fight on the basketball court because he thinks that's what ferociousness is.
That's how you're supposed to play.
Yes.
All right, well...
here's another hot who's not. One of my favorite stories that happened this week. Isaiah Thomas, IT, signed to a 10-day deal with the New Orleans Pelicans. I am so excited about that. It hurts my heart that IT did not get his money. I root for the little man, so that is a very cool story. I hope that the first game he made an instant impact. It was great to see all the love he got throughout Twitter from other NBA players. Now, can we just sign Jamal Crawford to a team somewhere? That'll really make me happy. But I'm so glad that IT is back in the league, and I think it's great for the game.
Now we've got NBA legend Grant Hill. He's going to become the USA Basketball Managing Director following the Tokyo Olympics. He's replacing the retiring Jerry Colangelo. I just think that's such a great story. Grant Hill's always been a great story.
Yes.
Grant Hill's a great choice. I think he's universally liked and respected by players, and I think that makes a big difference. I think now we're coming to an era where if you're in a coaching position and maybe even an executive position, players want to know you were in the league.
Yes, absolutely.
They
absolutely.
Don't, if you didn't play, they're like,
yeah,
I don't know. Trust me. Players are side-eyeing Stan Van Gundy. They're like, look, fat boy. What No, I think Grant Hill, and believe me, I'm a Carolina guy, so I hate Duke automatically, but he's the right guy for the job, so good for him.
Now, speaking of Carolina, Roy Williams just retired. The successor is going to be Hubert Davis. And I want to hear what you guys think about that. I mean, Hubert Davis, I think, is a great choice for a lot of reasons. Sully, what do you think?
Also another great choice. Alonzo hit it on the head. Players that played where I know, oh yeah, that guy's a real one. He really played. He competed. He made a difference. I want to see you in those impactful situations. And he's the first black head coach of the Carolina program. So with everything that's happened, it's nice to see that he gets this opportunity, and I wish him nothing but the best.
Hold on, wait a minute. Wasn't Tubby Smith there?
Tubby Smith?
Tubby
no.
Kentucky.
Tubby
had
Kentucky.
Yeah,
man.
Yeah.
I'm really
Hubert
screwing
Davis,
up today.
And the other reason Hubert Davis is perfect because he's part of the Carolina family.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is a
former
thing.
Player.
That torch is passed, from Dean Smith. Like, that is a...
Yep.
It's not just a hire. It's like, are you Carolina? Like Roy Williams, his whole time at Kansas, it was like Dean Smith said, you just stay there till I retire.
Right.
It's like,
right.
You do what you want. And then as soon as that job opened, Roy was like, oh yeah, well, I'm going to Carolina. That's where I belong.
Well, it's one of the great things about Michigan basketball. With their hiring of their head coach, it's a player that was a member of the Fab Five. I mean, you know what I mean? Like that's exactly what you want to see. And it is easy to root for players that come from that. That's what made him. That's what defined his career. So I'm
gonna make a weird analogy for an NBA show, but to me, this reminds me of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You had Chuck Noll. Then you had Bill Cowher. Then you had Mike Tomlin. I'm hoping Hubert Davis is the Mike Tomlin here. Not just because he's black, but also because that program, I don't want to see such a great program fall from those level of coaches.
I don't think it's fallen. You guys talked about the NCAA and March Madness, which turned out to be great. The Final Four turned out to be great. But I wasn't happy with college basketball this season, and I don't think they should have played. I think you took advantage of players in a COVID situation It's not like the pros where they're getting paid and they have a choice whether or not to take the risk. And obviously, nobody really knew going in. Like, obviously, UCLA shouldn't have been ranked that low and been a play-in team, right? We saw how much better UCLA was. And then you didn't have, Duke and Carolina and the powerhouses because it was such a weird season.
Sure.
And the only reason they did it, I mean, Dan, when you talk about the money, it's $1 billion business for
absolutely.
Yes. And
absolutely.
Schools, they could care less about those kids. If you're a backup point guard and you got COVID, they didn't give a shit about you. So I didn't like it. I didn't like the fact they did it.
That's a great point. That's a great point, Alonzo. And it shows you have a lot of heart. This is why we have you on the show, for your comedy and your heart. But now we're going to move to a segment we call Suli's Sneaker Vault. He has. Do you know how many shoes this guy has?
I have a ton of shoes, and
I know that he has 3 storage units.
Not three. I've downsized to one,
like from a container ship.
Yeah.
And from
I have a storage unit, and my apartment looks like I'm a manager of a Foot Locker that recently got his heart broke. That's what it looks like. There's a lot of shoes everywhere. My sneaker of the week, with Godzilla vs. Kong being the #1 movie in the country, people are apparently going back to movie theaters now, which is great. I decided to highlight a shoe that has a Godzilla influence. These are the Nike Mid Blazer Premiums, and this is part of the Godzilla pack. There were two Godzilla influenced shoes in this pack. This is the cooler of the two. As you can see, it has a reptilian side with a gum bottle sole, red laces. This says Godzilla, even if you're 5'5", 118 pounds. So, very cool shoe. This was released in 2009. I have a lot of sneakers, and this is the perfect sneaker of the week if you are a Godzilla fan.
Wow. There are some shoes out there that I had no idea about. This and the Bacons, I can't believe.
Yes.
You got to go deep. Suli's in deep. I got a few pair of sneakers. Suli's in deep. Now, here's my question, Suli. Do you wear those?
I do.
I do. Some that you don't wear.
Yeah, some just stay in the box. Those are my just-in-case sneakers. If comedy doesn't pan out, if Run It Back suddenly gets canceled, I've got sneakers that I can instantly hawk for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Well, not hundreds of thousands, but at least hundreds.
At least
with
hundreds,
shipping included.
yeah.
With shipping
at least $100.
Yes,
no, listen,
at least
he's got
$100.
some good stuff.
Yeah,
All
I
right,
got some
now,
great sneakers.
We're moving to our final thoughts. I'm wearing a Michael Jordan Bulls shirt, so we're going to go to a Charlotte story, because that's where he is. Charlotte Hornets forward Gordon Hayward out at least 4 weeks with a right foot sprain. So, they just lost LaMelo,
which was a terrible loss.
Charlotte, but I'm thinking about Gordon Hayward in particular. Like, is he the most injury-prone player in the NBA? I still almost think of him as belonging to Butler, because he's played so few games in the NBA. And who would be on your all-NBA injury team? Let's cover that.
Well, I think he would definitely be there. I would say Greg Oden would be on my all-injury team. The #1 pick, Greg Oden. I actually wrote on the ESPY Awards the year him and KD were drafted. I was in a little room with Jamie Foxx. I know I'm name-dropping right now, but there's a point to it. And KD and Greg Oden were standing next to each other. And even back then, I knew KD was the guy and Greg Oden was going to get hurt. So he is #1 on my all-injury team. Oh. But in terms of Gordon Hayward, he is right up in that starting 5. This dude is making $128 million playing for the Hornets on a 4-year deal, and he can't seem to stay healthy for more than 3 weeks at a time.
Yeah, you knew that when you signed him. That was, no, I mean, really. I mean, look at his history. You knew that when you signed him. Now, the thing about Greg Oden, I think, and it goes back to Sam Bowie, because there's another guy, right, who will go down in history as, why'd you pick Sam Bowie over Jordan? Some big men, their bone structure won't support their body. And that was the case with Oden, and that was the case with Bowie, where their feet were literally not strong enough to support their body.
Yes.
I'll put another guy here. Here's a pick. You're a Chicago guy, Dan. Jay Williams.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
How about Derrick Rose? I'm
Right.
another Chicago guy.
Well, Rose.
You know what, though? Yeah,
But-
I'm going to give Derrick Rose a pass because he's overcome injury to succeed.
Right.
Fair point.
Jay Williams, and I'm a motorcycle guy, and there's nothing dumber than stunting on a motorcycle with no safety equipment and ending your NBA career. And I don't think he got paid because he did it on there's clauses in your contract, so I don't know how he did money-wise or whatever, but that was a guy who there was nothing but up from him.
Yes.
He could have been,
Yes.
I believe he could have been phenomenal and just ended his career after, one season, done, and never played again, never could play again.
It's sad to see because these guys they work so hard to get there.
Yes.
And it does make you realize that.
And finally, I'm going to throw one in, and this is just as a
let's
Clipper
hear it.
fan.
Yeah.
Oliver Miller. Because
Oh, man.
you can eat your way out of the NBA, when you can cheeseburger your way out of
Yes.
the NBA,
Yes.
no injury, just a buffet
Yes.
in your
Yes.
career.
No,
See, as
Yeah.
a Clipper fan, and again, Dan, you don't understand. We respect shit like that.
Yes, we do.
Go out
Yes,
as-
we do.
That's
Yes.
you're one of the best power forwards in the league. You could be the next Barkley to round
Right.
down the rebound, and you're like, man, in and out burgers.
Right.
that's a
Right.
good choice. That's
Right.
a good choice. I mean, I was going to ask you how you guys end up being Clippers fans when you got the Lakers right there. So how does this happen? Well, we'll finish on this. How do you end up a Clipper
that's a
fan?
great question and a fair question. I became a Clipper fan because a friend of mine in college, Pooh Richardson, played for the Clippers. That's when they used to play for the Sports Arena. I had a friend who worked for Billy Crystal's company, and Billy Crystal, big-time Clipper fan. The people that worked in his management group also bought tickets because you do what the person you represent also does. They would never use them. Lo and behold, great seats that no one would use. That is how I became a Clipper fan. And I would go because back in the day, they would say, they would advertise the Clippers off, come see your favorite team beat the Clippers to death. So that's how they sold the Clippers in hopes of getting people to go see them. I would go and to see these great other teams. The Clippers would be in it for 3 quarters, and I started to root for them like they got a shot. So I actually had a sympathetic soft spot for the Clippers, and I was like, you know what? I like that they compete and they try. So that's how I became a Clipper fan.
I'm with you on that. Alonzo, let me hear your Clipper story, and then we'll wrap it up.
The last line Suli said is a big part of it, the fact that they compete and they try. So I became a Clipper fan. Back in the 80s, was when I moved to L.A., Showtime was phenomenal. But I ain't have that kind of money. I couldn't go to a Laker game. You know what I mean? Like I made all right money, but I didn't have Laker money.
Right.
But I damn sure had Clipper money. We would
Sure.
laugh. We were like, how does this team stay in business? There was a time, Dan, when the Raiders were playing. If you had a Raider ticket stub, you could go to the Clipper game for $10 because they were like, you already parked. You already parked the car. But the great thing was they did play hard. They played. It was the little brother trying to, maybe because I'm a little brother, I don't know, but it was the little brother trying to knock where the big brother was, get to where the big brother was.
Yes.
And it used to be funny, those ads. Come see Charles Barkley beat the Clippers. Come see Michael Jordan beat the Clippers. Basically, that's what the ads were like. Come see Karl Malone beat the Clippers. Like, it was literally, they would advertise the other team. And you go to the sports arena. Dan, there were only 3,000 or 4,000 people there. You just walk down. They were like, everybody come down and have.
Sounds
I showed up to a game once, and Pooh was shooting around before the game and saw me and said, "Yo, Suli, you staying?" This was the start of the game. He was so surprised I was there and was like, "Are you staying?" I was like,
Listen,
"Yeah, I'm staying."
I'm a Cleveland fan, so I feel like I found my people, the Clippers, the little brothers of the world, and I am a little brother myself.
It's fun because they're still the little brother.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even when they get good. And
Yes.
and I tell Laker fans all the time, like, they can't handle losing. They had a few off years and they cried like bitches. Like, listen, we know
Being a Clipper fan makes you strong.
We've lost 3-1 a few times.
Yes, multiple times.
Nothing.
Multiple
It's nothing.
times.
Yeah, the Clippers know how to take some punches.
Yes.
Well, Alonzo, it's been great having you on the show. It's just amazing. Suli, you take us out.
Guys, this was another jam-packed episode of Run It Back. As you know, we will be back next week. I got the orange hat. So, as always, thanks to my co-host, Dan Ratner, Alonzo Bodden. Totally appreciate you, man. You are welcome anytime. We will see you next week on Run It Back.
Thank you, guys. Take care.
You too.